As we're doing this interview, it is the 30th of September. Everybody heard about the 30th of September. That's when the fiscal year runs out. October 1st, you're supposed to have a new deal. We don't have a new deal yet as we're doing this interview right now. To that point, I want to get with my representative from District 21 of the great state of Texas. It's Republican Chip Roy. Chip, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing great, Joe. Hope you and your family are doing well.
We are doing well, and I always appreciate what you do for us. We could talk about the interesting story in Kerrville some other time, but I found it pretty interesting. I was guy in the blue shirt that President Trump was calling on, and you started speaking, and he was like, Chip, wait. And I said, no, let him finish. He's my representative. We'll talk about that some other time over that Diet Dr. Pepper that we talked about. But I want to get into this whole government shutdown thing. I got to tell you, man, and maybe I'm just on the wrong side of everything, but I want it to shut down. If we can't do something to at least continue negotiations without Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries insisting on $1.5 trillion in new spending just to continue, the current spending, that blows my mind. I want it to shut down. And that doesn't mean those who get a government paycheck that are watching or listening, I don't hate you. I'm not compassionate. But at the end of the day, they don't have any leverage and they're acting like they do. Fill me in on where we are right now.
Yeah, first of all, we're in a good spot as Republicans, as conservatives. President Trump, the Speaker, and John Thune, I think, are doing a great job right now on the back of several months of work on our part after the big, beautiful bill.
Right.
To be in a position where Republicans moved a bill that will extend government funding through November 20th in the form of a continuing resolution, which, look, you and I as conservatives, we normally don't love that because we want to see us do our work, get appropriations bills passed.
Right.
But remember, we have to have 60 votes in the Senate. So the same Chuck Schumer that's doing this is the same Chuck Schumer that wants to negotiate each appropriations bill. So as a conservative, with Donald Trump in the White House and Russ Vought as the head of the OMB, I have great comfort that if we hold spending flat, we're winning as conservatives. So I'm actually in favor of long-term continuing resolutions. My preference was that we had passed one past November 20th. Yes. I would have preferred a full year CR, keep spending flat, go empower Russ Vought, and let's move on. But here's the deal. Democrats, they don't know how to take a win. They instead want to go pick a fight. And the reason is because they're getting their butts kicked on every single issue. They see Trump securing the border. They see Trump cleaning up the military. You see what Pete Hegseth did today, getting rid of all the woke nonsense. You see what we're doing and winning on the world stage. You see what's happening with respect to economic activity. And people are seeing that. And so now Democrats are flailing around and they want to shut down the government to try to find a way to pick a fight because they need something to shake things up. So they go back to their old well and they're going to pick a fight on health care. So they think. But they've done it so poorly that I agree with you, Joe. Under no circumstances should Republicans blink. The Democrat position right now is instead of funding government through November 20th at the last level Biden had, they would rather shut it down so they can do what? Give $40 billion of COVID-era subsidies that are bankrupting the average American family's health care bill to what? Insurance companies. And they want to go give money to illegal aliens because we in the big, beautiful bill constrained access to benefits like Medicaid and other benefits from illegal aliens, and we wanted work requirements. The American people love that stuff. Democrats are on the wrong side of history. We should hold the line and we should not blink. I think if we do that, I think we win. But we'll see what they do tonight by midnight.
I agree with you that they're flailing because the argument they're making doesn't make any sense. When I saw J.D. Vance walk out yesterday and John Thune and Mike Johnson, when they all walked out, they made very direct commentary on what the left is doing. And I didn't see Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer deny that they were trying to give health care to illegal aliens, that they were trying to continue post-pandemic spending, and you and I have talked about this a million times. We should probably cut $2 trillion from our annual budget because COVID's over. Pandemic has been over for a few years now. So what do you think the argument is? You work with these people every day. What is there? Normally, the left makes an argument and they make it sound like it's not what it is. This one, they like have nothing to. It's not like they're saying, we want $40 billion, not what Chip said. We want to give that to women and children, American citizens in Missouri. They're not saying that. They're not arguing that what you just said is true. So what is their point? Do you know?
Well, look, I think that they're so beholden to the radical left and what they were doing with open borders that they want to go try to buy votes and say that they need to make sure that these healthcare provisions are going to everybody and that they want to make a case out of that. But importantly, on healthcare, for example, I think they sense that they're starting to lose the argument a little bit. And this is where I have a little bit of I want to give a little bit of fuel to Republicans to have confidence. I think we can win the argument on healthcare freedom. I'm not saying you pick a big fight on healthcare right now. You focus on the border, you focus on the woke stuff, you focus all the things where we're just pummeling them into the ground. But let's be very clear. When we're on the side of healthcare freedom, when we're on the side of patients and doctors and not insurance companies, when we're on the side of getting pharmaceutical prices down, when we do what we did in the big beautiful bill, which is expand direct primary care and do things to try to encourage health savings accounts, well, now you're doing something that helps Americans rather than the subsidies, which, by the way, $200 billion a year of subsidies going to insurance companies under Obamacare. The average family of four has to pay $25,000 a year for health insurance to have high deductibles and low access to good doctors. Everybody knows the system's broken. I think they're figuring out who broke it. We should remind them who broke it. And Democrats now want to double down on a failing system. So for me, yes, focus on the stupidity of the illegal aliens. Focus on Democrats wanting to get rid of work requirements. But don't run away from the fact I think we're starting to win on healthcare because now we're actually starting to move in the direction of fixing the system rather than running away and hiding in the corner saying, oh my God, I can't talk about Obamacare.
Right. District 21 Republican, great state of Texas. It is Chip Roy. He's my U.S. representative. So as we're talking about all this, Chuck Schumer showed his hand a little bit yesterday, I think, and he said, well, we just don't want you to have the ability to do rescissions. Almost like you have to promise not to do rescissions if we do a CR, which Chuck, it doesn't work that way. The Republicans have the House, the Senate, pretty much the Supreme Court, depending, conservatives anyway, and we've got the White House. So this is the way it works. When you had Obama and you had the legislature, he did anything he wanted to do. Literally did DACA, which is illegal. You and I both know DACA is not legal. I don't care what the Supreme Court says. These people are here illegally. You can't kick the can down the road and say give us a fee every 2 years. So when they had control, Nancy Pelosi got it all done. Schumer got it all done. Obama got it all done. Otto Penn got it all done. Now that the control is on the other side, they're crying wolf. This is how it works. Is there any way Republicans would even blink a little bit and say, okay, we promise no more rescissions? Please tell me we won't do that.
No, there's no way. First of all, we passed rescissions as a majority in the House and in the Senate. And what did we rescind? God-awful foreign policy funding, all of those ridiculous programs that were going to transgender woke policies and programs across the world.
Right.
And we cut those, which the American people are with us on. In addition, we pulled back the funding from PBS and NPR.
Right.
And look, I want to take a pause. You're from the district I represent. You went to Kerrville during those terrible floods.
Yes.
It wasn't the local, broadcast stations through NPR who were out there putting all the information to help people on that terrible morning on July 4th.
Right.
It was local private stations.
Yes.
Local private stations with advertisers who are from the community. So I have no problem that we defunded NPR and PBS, and Democrats want to pick that fight, they can go ahead. But those rescissions were important, and we passed them under the law. And then Russ Vought and the president are rightly using something called pocket rescissions, which means that if we're not spending the money appropriately through the end of the year, and there's money sitting there, they can, through their executive authorities under the law, rescind that money and get rid of it and save it for the taxpayer.
Right.
They just won in court, in federal court. They just won that argument. The court said you can do that. That is the law. And so now they can go forward and we can go do more of that in coming years. This is a slow battle here. This is a marathon where we've laid out plans over the last year and a half, building to the Trump presidency, Trump round 2, and then through the last 9 months, through the big beautiful bill, the defense funding, the border funding, by the way, Joe, we put that $150 billion of border funding in the big beautiful bill. Guess what? Now, if the Democrats shut down, we can still fund border operations and removals. Wow. We were ahead of this curve. We're beating them, and they know it.
President Trump made a reference to possibly starting to fire people. All right, you want to shut the government down? We'll just start eliminating positions. Can he do that, Chip?
Well, sir, so one of the powers that the head of OMB, Russ Vought, full disclosure, a good friend of mine, one of the powers he has is to prioritize funding, right? You hear everybody with the wailing and the gnashing of teeth during a potential shutdown when you have a Democrat in the White House, and you hear them go, oh my God, nobody's going to be able to, we're going to default on the debt. Well, no, we're not, because what will happen is Russ will go through and they'll prioritize spending. They'll pay off the interest because we have tax bills coming in. We have revenue coming into the Treasury.
Right.
We'll pay interest on our debt so you don't default. We will also pay out money for Social Security. But then he's got to go through and prioritize how we spend. And then he's got greater enhanced authority and powers when you're in a shutdown situation to be able to go through and essentially furlough and lay off workers. And when you've got a bunch of bureaucrats who have been undermining our freedom, and they're sitting there, often watching porn or going off and having these ridiculous, conferences where they go out in hotels and sit in hot tubs and whatever that crap's been. These bureaucrats, a lot of them still need to be removed. Yes. And so if you're in a shutdown fight, you've got more authority, I think, for the OMB director and the president to act. And frankly, I hope they do and should.
It's a great bit of leverage. It's Chip Roy, District 21 Republican, great state of Texas. I know that you've got to go vote or something. You've got something coming up, but I just want to get a few more things in here if you don't mind.
Sure.
What's going to happen tonight? Predict what's going to happen at midnight. We're going to have something?
I think Democrats have walked themselves into a box canyon. I think that they have now had so much rhetoric out there about what they're going to do that it's going to be very difficult for them to walk it back. I think it's take it or leave it. You either take the House bill that's a 7-week bill through November 20th, or you're going to walk us into shutdown. I don't think there'll be a shorter-term solution. Now, look, anything's possible. You know that the president, and I mean this as a compliment, not a criticism, the president is a deal maker, and he's happy to work with people to reach an ultimate objective. By the way, I'm the same way. I'm happy to do that in the big, beautiful bill. I didn't get everything I wanted, but we delivered a good product because you work hard, you negotiate, and then you figure out how to land the plane. Now, the one thing I do think is important, though, Republicans cannot blink on the subsidies. They're evil, and they're driving up the average American's health care premiums and insurance costs and health care costs. And two, to your point, we cannot blink on any of this other stuff in which, we would somehow, try to save this at the 11th hour. So I think if we hold the line, we win, and we'll see what the Democrats do between now and midnight.
Hard shift to James Comey. Is he going to actually face the music? I know there's going to be a trial, obstruction, and I guess lying to Congress. Is that really going to stick to him? A lot of people don't think it will. I talked to Rudy Giuliani the other day. He thinks there's a RICO case here from Obama on down. I talked to our friend Ted Poe, and Poe, as a former judge, says, I don't know if they're going to be able to convict him of anything, but it's a good start. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, look, serving on the House Judiciary Committee, we've had to deal with his nonsense, and we've been trying to expose it. Obviously, Jim Jordan has, and now you've got the White House and the DOJ taking action. Look, I think the American people want to see consequences for what was very clear abuse of power by the Biden administration and their officials. There is no doubt, if you're being objective at all, and which, by the way, the radical left, they're out here trying to say, oh, the president is using this to politically go after his adversaries. Hold on a second. The entire Biden regime was targeting conservatives all the way from President Trump all the way down. Pro-lifers who are praying in front of abortion clinics, getting FACE Act violations thrown at them, having all of the J6ers who are being essentially, jailed for often no reason or put in horrible situations. I had a grandmother from Austin, Texas, driving out to Fredericksburg who was, arrested 2 years after all of that ended. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then you have President Trump and all the lawfare being exercised against him. So spare me your big tears on this whole issue. We know Comey has been up to no good, what he was doing with the hoax and everything else. Bottom line is they should pursue truth wherever it may lead. As a former prosecutor, look, you got to go look at the elements of the crime, and you got to go prove it up in front of a grand jury. So hopefully if they've filed the case and they're indicting, or, that they've indicted him, then they got to go present the case and go win it.
Again, hard shift here, but I want to go to Sharia law showing up in America. And I'll give a quick example. In the UK, you've got, in England itself, I think 6% of the population is Muslim. And Muslims are the mayors of almost every big city you can name. Birmingham, London, down the line. They're Oxford. Every one of these cities is run by somebody who is a Muslim. And now you're starting to see thousands of people shutting down bridges as they're praying. In Dearborn, back here in Dearborn, Michigan, and Hamtramck, Michigan, you've got the actual call to prayer audibly 5 times a day in a city where the mayor of Dearborn just told some Christian, get out. And when you get out of Dearborn, we'll have a parade celebrating that you're out. Chip, I've got friends and family, and it's not hyperbole, who are Muslims. I have no problem how you want to worship, as long as you don't tell me you're going to change the value system or the way that this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. So what's going on here? Again, I think you agree. Be a Muslim if you want, but you can't Islamicize the United States of America.
Well, look, that's the goal. Let's be very clear. The Islamists, those that are adherent to Sharia law, they want to take their way of thinking and they want to force it upon the American people, and they're open about it, okay? It's a direct assault on Western civilization and Western values. We have to understand that from the very beginning. And that's important. I just want to point out the last substantive conversation I have with Charlie Kirk. And I don't like to talk about private conversations,
Right.
but I think this one's really important. The last substantive conversation I had with him was about this topic. It was about how important it is for us to understand this assault on the West. It's an organized assault. It's one of the reasons that I decided to leave Congress after 4 terms and 8 years to run for Attorney General. I want to bring all of the powers of that office, including the bully pulpit and pressure on the legislature, to take all steps necessary to stop the advancement of Sharia law, things like Epic. I mean, look, you mentioned Dearborn, Michigan. What about right here in our own backyard,
Yes,
Joe? Here in
Epic
Texas,
City,
where we have mosques spreading around the entire state, where we have Epic up in Plano, where they were trying to create a Muslim enclave, and that's a lot of Sharia-born kind of policies and adherence. And then you had yesterday the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. You had Christians being blocked, allegedly. I haven't seen all the facts proven
right.
out, but being blocked from going into a multi-denominational, kind of prayer center. So, look, bottom line is we need to take this seriously. We need to understand that it is an attack on our way of life. By the way, alongside the Marxist leftist attack on our way of life, which is why I called on the formation of a special select committee to go follow the money about what George Soros, the Wren Collective, the DAs who are letting criminals on our streets in San Antonio, near where you live, on the streets in Austin, Dallas, Houston. We got to stop all of that. In addition to the advancement of Sharia, in addition to the organizations that have moved people across our southern border on an organized basis, the NGOs that USCIS today under Trump just did not acknowledge. They were moving people purposely for money. They were moving people into the United States that they knew were bad actors. So
Wow.
This is all stuff that we need to address and follow the money, so that the American people need to know leftists aren't all just kittens and puppies and we're rainbows and all that like happy stuff. What they really are is an organized group of Marxists who want to take out our way of life, and we should treat them as such.
ChipRoy.com. He's running for the Attorney General's job here in the state of Texas. Currently Representative District 21, my representative. Chip, thanks a million. I know you got to run. Thank you for taking the time today.
God bless, Joe. Take care. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Talk soon. We're back after this. Stay right here.